The woman on the train. The train car was empty until she sat down facing me, backwards on the seat. It was barely dawn, the kind of dull gray morning where the world looks faded, like it hasn't woken up yet. I was half asleep on the platform waiting for the commuter train, wrapped in my coat, headphones dead, mind buzzing with the dread of another workday. The train screeched in, wheels screaming on the cold metal rails. The car was almost completely empty. Just me and the steady hum of the fluorescent lights. I sat near the center, letting the rhythm of the tracks lull me, staring at the pale reflection of myself in the window. At the next stop, she boarded. A woman. Thin. Drenched hair hanging over her shoulders like wet rope. She moved strangely, too smooth, like her steps didn't quite match the sway of the train. She didn't even glance around the car. She just walked straight to the seat across from me, turned, and sat down, backwards, facing me. Her knees pressed against the backrest. Her arms hung loose at her sides. Her eyes locked on mine, unblinking. The hair on my arms rose. I shifted my gaze to the window beside her, pretending not to notice. But my reflection was alone. She wasn't in it. My stomach tightened. I glanced back. She was closer. No sound. No movement that I'd seen. Just closer. Her lips began to twitch. Muttering. I couldn't hear the words. The train lurched as the lights flickered overhead. Then went out. For one heartbeat of black. When they blinked back on, she was beside me. Her wet hair brushed my cheek. Her voice slid into my ear like cold water. You shouldn't be awake. Every muscle in my body snapped. I exploded out of my seat, shoving past her, sprinting down the swaying car. My boots clanged on the metal flooring, breath sawing through my teeth. She didn't chase me. Didn't even turn. Just sat there, still facing backward on the seat. Her head rotated slowly as I passed through the door to the next car. The moment the train stopped, I bolted. I stumbled onto the platform, my legs weak, lungs burning. The car's doors hissed shut behind me. Through the window, she was still watching. Mouth curled into a faint, unnatural smile. Then the train screeched away, shrinking down the tracks until it vanished. I threw up in a trash bin. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I've never ridden that train again. I drive an extra hour to work every day. Because her voice still echoes in my skull, whispering, "You shouldn't be awake." The gas station attendant. He smiled at me like he knew me, but said he'd never seen me before. It was almost 2 a.m. and the highway had been empty for hours, just black road unraveling under my headlights. My eyelids were getting heavy. I told myself I'd stop at the next place I saw, anywhere with lights. The fuel gauge was below E when a glowing sign finally appeared out of the darkness. A tiny gas station squatted alone in a stretch of dirt and trees, its buzzing fluorescent lights flickering like dying insects. I pulled in, engine ticking in the silence. No other cars. No sound except the soft hum of the lights and the crunch of gravel under my boots. The store's bell gave a weak jingle as I pushed the door open. That's when he looked up. The attendant. Middle-aged, thin, with slicked back hair and watery blue eyes. And he smiled. "Welcome back, my name," he said. I froze mid-step. "My name." My throat went dry. Sorry, what?" "Good to see you again," he said, smiling wider. My heart gave a hard, painful thud. "I've never been here," I managed. His smile didn't falter. "You were just here yesterday." The air felt heavier. The humming lights seemed to fade to the edges of my hearing. I forced a nervous laugh and set a bottle of water on the counter. He didn't ring it up, didn't blink. When I reached for the door, it wouldn't move. But he was still behind the counter, smiling. "You came back," he said softly. "Excuse me? You're not supposed to be alive." The words were quiet, matter of fact, like he was telling me the weather. Something snapped in me. I threw my shoulder into the door. The frame cracked. The second it burst open, I ran. Gravel crunched under my boots as I bolted to my car. My keys slipped from my shaking hands. Behind me, the bell jangled. He was coming. I got the door unlocked, dove in, slammed it shut just as he reached the car. His face hit the glass. Both hands slammed flat on my window. His smile was gone now. His eyes were wide and white. I floored the gas. Tires squealed on loose gravel as I tore out of the lot, the glowing station shrinking in my mirror. He didn't chase me. He just stood there, growing smaller, hands raised like he was pressing against an invisible wall. I didn't stop driving until I crossed the state line. When I called the police the next morning, they said there was no gas station at that location. I checked the map. There really wasn't. Nothing but forest. I haven't stopped for gas at night since. But sometimes, when I glance in my rearview mirror on empty roads, I see a pale face smiling through the glass, like he's already there, waiting for me to come back. The motel mirror. The man in the mirror smiled, but I wasn't smiling. It was the kind of motel you book because it's cheap and close, not because you feel safe there. A sagging building off the highway, glowing in patches of flickering neon. The parking lot was almost empty when I pulled in, just one cracked soda machine buzzing beside the stairs. I was on a business trip, exhausted from the long drive. The receptionist barely looked up when I checked in, just slid a metal key across the counter and muttered, "Second floor." The hallway was too quiet. The carpet squished under my shoes, damp with something that smelled faintly sour. Inside my room, the air felt stale, like no one had opened a window in years. I cranked the heater and went to the bathroom to wash my face. That's when it started. The mirror was fogged. I hadn't turned the water on yet. I wiped my hand across it and froze. Words streaked through the mist, faint but unmistakable. "Don't look." My breath caught. I spun around, expecting someone behind me. Empty room. When I faced the mirror again, I felt something shift deep in my stomach. My reflection was half a second behind. It blinked late, tilted its head after I did. My heart started hammering. I lifted my hand. It stayed still. Then it smiled. Slow. Too wide. My lips were locked in a flat line. The lights flickered, then went out. Total black. The heater clicked off, and in the silence, I heard something soft. The faint creak of weight on the bathroom floor behind me. But I couldn't move. My body was frozen, shaking from the inside out. A dim red glow leaked from the alarm clock through the crack in the door. And in it I saw the mirror. My reflection stepped forward. Out of the glass. The lights roared back on. I ran. I didn't grab my bag. I didn't grab my shoes. I tore down the hallway barefoot, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. My skin crawled like something was still reaching for me. The receptionist jolted upright as I burst into the lobby, gasping. My voice cracked. "There's someone." But when I turned to point, the hallway was empty. Silent. I left the key on the counter and walked out into the freezing night barefoot. I drove 3 towns over before I stopped shaking. I don't look into hotel mirrors anymore. Not directly. Not for long. Because I don't know what might be looking back. The crossing guard. She was still standing at the crosswalk, long after all the children were gone. It was late afternoon, the kind of pale, overcast day where the air feels thin and the world sounds muted. I was jogging my usual route through the quiet suburban neighborhood near my apartment. The streets were mostly empty. Lawns trimmed, driveways clear, the whole place wrapped in silence. That's when I saw her. The crossing guard, bright yellow vest, stop sign in hand, standing perfectly still at the corner crosswalk. There hadn't been kids around for over an hour. At first, I thought she might just be zoning out. I waved politely as I passed. She didn't wave back, didn't blink. Her eyes followed me down the block. The air felt colder. I shook it off and kept jogging, earbuds buzzing faintly in my ears. A few streets later, I turned the corner and froze. She was there, standing on the next corner, vest bright in the gray light. Perfectly still. I blinked hard. No way. It wasn't possible. I turned left at the next block, pushing harder, my breaths coming fast. My pulse thudded in my neck. And she was there again, waiting at the end of that street. Her head tilted just slightly now, like she was curious. A thread of panic wound tight through my ribs. I slowed to pull out my phone. The screen flickered, then went black. My hand trembled as I shoved it back into my pocket. I risked one more glance up the street. She was closer, just standing, watching. I cut through someone's yard, feet crunching over dead leaves, ducking behind a hedge. The air behind me shifted. "Don't run from me." The voice was right at my ear. I spun, heart exploding against my ribs. No one. Nothing. I bolted. Branches slapped my arms as I tore across the yard, back onto the sidewalk, running full speed until my lungs burned. My shoes pounded the pavement all the way to my building. I slammed the door behind me, locked it, and stumbled to the window. She was standing at the end of my street. Still unmoving. She stayed there for almost an hour. Then, without turning, she walked away. Slow. Measured. Like she already knew I wouldn't follow. I don't jog anymore. Not outside. Because now, when I see empty streets, I imagine her at the next corner, standing perfectly still, waiting for me to run. The gas leak call. A man called claiming there was a gas leak and told me not to open my windows. It was late evening, the kind where the rain blurs the whole world outside your window into a gray smear. My apartment was quiet except for the low hiss of the radiator. I was curled on the couch scrolling aimlessly when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. I wish I had. My full name, the voice said as soon as I answered. This is the gas company. We've detected a leak at your unit. I sat up, heart tightening. Is it serious? Yes, he said softly. Stay calm. Don't open your windows. Don't move around too much. Stay still. We're on our way. Rain hammered the glass. The room suddenly felt smaller. He had used my full name. My exact address. Okay, I whispered. Are you alone right now? He asked. Something in his tone chilled me. Yes, I lied. My roommate's here. He paused. Good, he said. Stay very still. I'll be there soon. I muted the call and dialed the gas company on my landline. My hands were trembling. They told me they hadn't called me. No leaks. No technicians dispatched. My stomach dropped into ice. That's when the knocking started. Slow. Right at my front door. The man's voice hissed suddenly through my phone speaker. Don't answer it. The knocks grew louder. I crept toward the peephole, phone pressed to my ear. "Stay where you are," he whispered. A shadow crouched directly in front of the peephole, blocking all light. The lights in my apartment went out, but I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a dull thud. I bolted to the window, yanked it open, and scrambled barefoot onto the fire escape as rain lashed my face. Cold metal stung my feet as I climbed down fast, heart hammering, lungs locked. I pounded on my neighbor's door until she opened it, startled, and dragged me inside. By the time the police arrived, my hallway was empty. No shadow, no man, and my phone showed no record of any call. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore, because I can still hear his voice when I close my eyes, calm and quiet in my ear, saying, "Don't move. I'm almost there." The forest biker. I thought he was just another biker, until he started circling me silently. The forest was golden that afternoon, the kind of light that filters down like honey through the pine needles. I'd taken the trail alone, just me, the crunch of dirt under my boots, and the faint smell of sap and earth. It was quiet, peaceful. Then I heard the tires. Soft at first, rolling over gravel. A man on a mountain bike came around the bend. He didn't nod, didn't smile, just glided past. I thought nothing of it, until he came from the opposite direction a few minutes later. And again, each time slower, each time staring. My chest tightened. I slowed my pace, letting him get far ahead, but the forest had gone eerily still. No birds, no wind, like the world was holding its breath. Then I heard him again. Behind me. I turned. He was there, coasting silently at walking speed, tires crunching softly. Eyes fixed on me. I forced my legs to keep moving, my mind whispering, "It's fine, just a guy, it's fine." The trail narrowed between two massive firs. He sped up suddenly, passed me close enough that his handlebars brushed my sleeve, then stopped dead ahead, blocking the path. His teeth showed in a strange half-smile. "You'll be fun to follow home," he said. My stomach dropped into ice. I ran, crashing off the trail, branches whipping my arms. Leaves exploded under my boots as I bolted into the undergrowth, lungs screaming for air. I dropped flat behind a mossy log, chest heaving. Silence. Then his voice, sing-song and distant. "My name, where'd you go?" My heart nearly stopped. I clamped a hand over my mouth, forcing myself not to breathe too loud. His tires crunched slowly past, then faded. I waited until my muscles cramped before I crawled out and sprinted in the opposite direction, praying I was heading toward the trailhead. When I burst out onto the gravel parking lot, I sobbed with relief. A car was passing the entrance and I ran into the road, waving frantically. The driver slammed the brakes, eyes wide, and let me in without a word. We drove in silence. The trees shrank in the mirror, swallowed by distance. I've never hiked alone again, because now I know how fast a stranger can turn the woods into something that wants to keep you. The mall bathroom. I was alone in the mall bathroom, until I saw feet in the next stall facing the wrong way. The mall was closing, the overhead announcements echoing faintly through the vast empty halls. My shoes clicked against the polished tile, the sound weirdly loud in the silence. Most of the lights were off, leaving only the security strips glowing faintly along the floor. I ducked into the restroom before heading to the exit. The air inside was cold and faintly chemical, the smell of bleach sharp in my nose. It was completely silent. Rows of stalls stretched down the left side. All their doors stood open, except the last one. 2 feet stood inside. Shoes worn down to the threads, toes pointed toward the toilet. I hesitated, listening. No movement. No breathing. I walked to the sink, trying to look casual as I washed my hands. The mirror reflected the line of empty stalls behind me. And those 2 feet. Still unmoving. I dried my hands slowly, keeping my eyes on the mirror. Then the feet moved. They rotated, slowly, until they were facing me. Under the stall divider, cold swept through me like a wave. I tried to unlock my phone, but the screen stayed black. A faint creak echoed off the tiles. The stall door was opening. I bolted. My shoulders slammed the bathroom door open so hard it cracked the wall. The lights flickered, then snapped off. I was running in pitch dark, my breath ragged, heartbeat roaring in my ears. Something icy brushed my ankle. I screamed and sprinted harder, bursting back into the silent mall corridors. A janitor pushing a cart turned at the sound, eyes going wide as I flew past. I didn't stop until I hit the food court, gasping, clutching the back of a chair with shaking hands. The janitor caught up a minute later. "Are you okay?" he asked carefully. I couldn't speak, just shook my head. When I glanced back down the hallway, the bathroom door was still swinging gently. Empty. I can't use public bathrooms if I'm alone anymore. Because I know what it's like to see feet turn toward you, when no one should be there. The man in the snow. He was barefoot in the snow, and smiling at me from across the street. It was late, nearly midnight, and the world was swallowed by white. Snow fell in thick, silent curtains, blanketing the streets in soft mounds. The streetlights glowed like dying candles through the storm. I was trudging home from a late shift, my breath fogging the air, boots crunching on the untouched sidewalk. My apartment was only 3 blocks away. That's when I saw him. Across the street. Standing barefoot in the snow. No coat. No shoes. Just a thin white t-shirt clinging to his frame, soaked and stiff from the cold. He was smiling. Too wide. His skin was bluish, lips cracked. He didn't move. Didn't shiver. I stopped mid-step. Snowflakes hissed softly against my hood. His eyes locked on mine. I told myself to keep walking, not to look again. When I did, he was closer. Still across the street, but halfway down the block now. My pulse jumped. I quickened my pace, boots crunching faster, heart pounding with each step. Snow muffled everything. No cars. No wind. No sound except my breathing. I risked another glance. Closer. Just a few houses away now. Still smiling. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I yanked it out, desperate to call someone. The screen showed 1% battery. It had been at 80% 5 minutes ago. The screen went black. Panic clawed up my throat. I ran. My boots slipped on the icy sidewalk, my breath tearing my lungs raw. Snow blinded my eyes, turned the world to white noise. I glanced back. He was in the street now. Running. Arms stiff at his sides, feet slapping silently against the snow. Still smiling. I cut across the road, boots skidding, nearly falling. My building's lights glowed faintly through the storm. My legs burned. My body felt like it was moving through glue. I slammed through the front door, chest heaving, slammed the lock and collapsed on the floor in a heap. Snow melted off my boots, pooling on the tile. I dragged myself to the window. He was standing on the sidewalk across the street. Grinning. The snow swallowed his legs up to the ankles, but he didn't move. Didn't flinch. He stood there for almost an hour, then turned and walked away into the storm, disappearing into white. I don't walk home in snow anymore, because I know what it's like to see something impossible, watching you like it's been waiting all night.